Hello everyone. I have the distinct privilege and the honor of talking to my beautiful daughter here, Antonique, and the awesome accomplishment of hers in writing her book, her first book, Bad Dream. Wow. Wow. I mean, wow. First of all, you look gorgeous. You look lovely.
Thank you.
They say that apple don't fall too far from the tree, if I may say so myself. But you look lovely.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Good. I know that. I can see that. I said, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
You doing well? Good.
I'm
Good.
good.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear it. Man. So, Bad Dream. How does it feel to have accomplished one of the things that you set out to do, that you wanted to do, and you've completed it? How does it feel?
It feels powerful. I feel
Is that
powerful.
right?
Yes. I feel proud as well. You know, I had a lot of downfalls and a lot of disappointment. So this is very like this is like my moment of truth. It's like, wow, it's finally here. So it feels good.
Well, I must be honest. I must admit, I haven't completed reading the book. I've picked it up and I've read some things, and I've set it back down. It's like, you know what? That's enough of this right now, because I'm in it, and it's looking back on portions of my life from a different perspective. Not from the lens of your eyes, seeing me from your eyes. It's been an eye opener, to say the least. And going through the process, the maturation process for a young lady, which I will never know. What was one of the major hurdles in overcoming or to achieve this? What was one of the major things that you had to overcome in writing the book?
There was a lot of roadblocks coming with publishing this book.
Okay.
And the first one was the hardest, was actually completing it. I was 8 months pregnant. I was in my last trimester before I had the baby. And I was, in my mind, I was like, I gotta finish because I know once I have the baby, then I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna be too tired, and then I know myself, so I'm like, I'm not gonna get it done. So that was one big thing from that. I was very tired, and I didn't, I actually wrote the end of it with my phone.
Okay.
I was writing it, I was actually writing it by hand, and I was like, this is taking too long. And then typing, you know, being pregnant and sitting there and trying to type it up, I was like, this is tiring, you know, I can't feel my legs no more. I got this heavy stomach sitting on my lap, like, I can't do this.
I can relate to that. Anyway, go ahead.
So I'm thinking like, what can I do? And I'm thinking, I'm like, well, you text and you on your phone all day. You sit there and you go with your thumb and boom, boom, boom. So just pull up in your notepad in your phone and sit there and write it that way.
There you go.
As stuff came to my mind, I sat there and I wrote it on my phone, write it, kept writing until I was done. And I think I finished like 2 weeks before I had the baby.
Oh, okay. So you put yourself, you had time constraints, being that you were writing along the course of your pregnancy, and you wanted to accomplish it and complete it prior to that, so you knew, you know, you didn't think you were going to be able to once, if you didn't complete it before you had your baby. Okay. All right. Now, Bad Dream. How did you come up with the title?
The title.
What's the message behind the title? What is that all about?
The title is
Bad
very
Dream.
unique because I'm big on dreams.
Okay.
As I expressed in the book, I have a lot of my dreams. Dreams mean a lot to me. So I was actually, it was during a time when I when I discovered that I was going to turn my journals into a book, I was actually in the shower. That's when I had my most spiritual moments.
Wow.
I was actually...
That's funny.
Really?
Not to cut you off, because that's the same way with me. When I'm at another place too, but in the shower is one, and another place, but I won't mention it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's in the shower when the Spirit of God speaks to me, when I get ideas and I come up with things. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I was actually in the shower and I was thinking like, what's going to be the title of this book? Because this is before I even started writing it. So I'm like, well, what will be the title of it? And this song came to my head, and I don't remember the name of it, but I just remember it from a movie that I watched when I was younger. And it's like a little kid song, and it's like, I'm just a kid and my life is a nightmare. That's how it goes. I'm just a kid and my life is a nightmare. It goes like that. Mm-hmm. And that song was playing in my head, and I'm like, bad dream, because that's what it felt like. It felt like all the events and everything that was happening was a bad dream that I wanted to wake up from. Okay. So that's where I came up with Bad Dream.
All right. Okay. And also along with the book, you have some other things that this is not it to the Bad Dream. There's other besides the book. Do I understand? Am I correct in saying that there's a movie or what is it?
It's actually it's a visual. It's a trailer that I helped create. Yes, mm-hmm. I teamed up with some producers and filmmakers and directors in Philly. Shout out to them. They helped me bring up my ideas to life as far as the trailer. I actually took a chapter out of the book to help me pick which one was best, and I took that chapter and I turned it into like a 5-minute trailer just for people that I know that don't read as much. So I wanted them to kind of have like a visual of what the book was, not about, but
so not like a full-length movie feature, but a short story, so to speak, like almost like a video, just a video or a short story.
Yeah, like a
and it's based on one of the chapters of your life via the book.
Yeah.
Okay. We can get back. I'm going to revisit that in a moment. Mm-hmm. But along with those hurdles you just mentioned, what would you say would be the thing that you would share with someone that's thinking about writing a book, their story or whatever? What would be advice that you would give them?
I would tell them to definitely do it, not to listen to what anybody has to say about it. Don't stress too much on the fear of it, because it's like, one of the things I thought about is, well, people don't really read, especially people my age. Like, people don't really read. There's people that read out there. There's people that love books and are still into reading. It's groups of people. So don't ever worry or think that nobody will read your book, because there's people out there who actually read. It takes a lot on you mentally as far as writing. It's very tiring because it is draining, because your mind is constantly moving and you have to go back and revisit certain areas, and it gets emotional when the feelings resurface, and also you have to remember. It takes a lot of memory. If you don't have a journal or anything to reference, you have to remember and actually make it interesting enough for people to, and I'm not saying make up stuff, but you actually have to, the way you write it, you have to make it interesting and for people to draw in, and when they read it, they can imagine it happening.
Mm-hmm. So you're relating to your readers, so to speak,
right,
through your life story, and so it's not a fictional work. These are actual accounts and things that you lived out in your life. Okay, all right. So, and as you're writing and you're doing your journal, as you're doing this, you're reliving. Did I hear you correctly in saying that you're reliving these events and things, such as I know, one time that you mentioned about being the chapter about, let me just say this, the chapter about But about what you based the trailer on, that chapter of it, and is it about you being date raped, or is that the one, or tell me what happened? Let me know what happened with that.
Okay. So actually, in that trailer, it wasn't a date rape.
Okay.
How it all went down is that me and a really close friend of mine, my cousin, we were actually stuck in the middle of the night. We were getting tattoos, and we lost track of time, and it was the middle of the night, and where the buses had stopped running.
Had you been drinking?
No.
Alcohol?
No,
alcohol.
I wasn't drinking at all. And we met a group of people who pulled over, a group of guys that pulled over and asked us if we needed a ride. And it was really late, and we didn't want to call nobody because we didn't want to get in trouble. So we did take the ride. You know, they seemed really cool. They dropped us off. We exchanged numbers and like, hey, y'all cool. You know, we should hang out sometime. The vibe is good. You know, the vibe is, you know, very good. It was like our homeboys, you know. So we actually hung out with them a few times, and this one particular time they had was like, hey, we having some drinks, we're watching movies, we probably get some crabs, you know, like come on over. So we came over, and me and my cousin, we were the only two females there. It was like a 5 or 6 guys there. We were playing cards, we were talking, and we were actually getting personal. We were talking about things, you know, as far as our life, things that go on in the world. So I'm thinking, like, you know, I didn't look at any of them as
nothing. You didn't get any check in your spirit, or nothing came to your mind that was out of the ordinary, out of place, any sense of danger or whatsoever.
It was so comfortable at that moment because we talked to them and we chilled with them before. So they actually had made a suggestion to play a game. And it was. Let
me ask you: you were drinking alcohol at this particular, at this gathering, at this little?
Not until we started playing the game.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
We weren't drinking or anything at all. We were just everybody was just talking and vibing. So at that point, when they suggested to play a game, it was I think whoever picks the lowest card had to take a shot.
Okay.
So we played that game for a few rounds, and it got to the point where as though I took about 6 or 7 shots, I remember.
Okay.
So, and this was Remy Martin, so this was like a very strong alcohol.
Remy Martin, what is that? No. Okay, Remy Martin. Okay.
Yeah. So
some Remy.
By then I was feeling like very like dizzy. I almost felt like I wanted to throw up, but I didn't want to throw up because that's like embarrassing. That's like chump.
Right.
So I was like, well, let me lay down just to wear it off and try to sleep it off. And what I remember when laying down, I remember my cousin and her friend, the guy across from me, they were sitting on the opposite couch talking, and I remember the guys were still at the table talking and playing cards. And I was laying down on the couch just as you said, and I was laying across here and they were across there. And the last thing I remember is the guy suggesting to her that he wanted to show her something. I think it was like a haunted old mental hospital around where we were. And he was like let me show you, or let me come take you to show you. And that was the last thing I remember before I had passed out. And when I woke up to somebody like shaking me almost, but at that time I was still in and out. Yeah, I was still in and out, and it was still blurry. Everything was blurry, and I took a look around. I noticed that nobody else was there, and I did notice that he had glasses, so I was able to identify which one of them it was.
Okay.
So he picked me up, and I was thinking in my mind, I'm thinking he's gonna lay me down somewhere else instead of being on the couch. I'm thinking he's gonna take me to the room or lay me down in the bed just so they can, I don't know, continue. Yeah. But that wasn't the case. It ended up resulting in something else.
Okay. All right. I won't go too further deep into that, but that's the chapter you chose to. Okay. And also with the title Bad Dream. And reliving different scenes as you're going through, you know, I hate to call it scene, different times in your life. As you're reliving them, I mean, the feelings and things come back as you're writing. If you go to reflect back, and that's good and bad, happy and sad, joyful, and you know, those things, those emotions and feelings, do they come flooding back? Do they come back as if you're right there?
Yes, they do. Because in the process of me writing this, I even expressed it in the book, because towards the end I was actually starting to write the book. Towards the end of the book, I expressed that I was starting to write it. I would be on the bus stop crying. It was tears on the paper as I was writing in my journal. So yes, those emotions, they come out, and as I write, and it's very hard. And even in part 2 that I'm currently writing right now, some points of it makes me so angry that I have to stop writing, because I just can't continue. It's
right at that time.
You know, it's
so real
still
for you.
piercing.
Yeah, it's
it
fresh.
still hurts.
Yeah,
so
those wounds aren't completely healed as of yet.
Yeah, sometimes.
Now let me ask you this: the cause of those wounds, the people that directly or indirectly, the cause of those feelings, those hurts, those pains, those wounds, have you forgiven them?
Yes, I have.
You don't sound too sure about that. You don't sound
because it wasn't so much as me forgiving them, because I did forgive them. It was me also forgiving myself for some of the decisions that I've made.
You're part of that.
Yeah.
So you're taking accountability and ownership as to your hand and the whole scenario,
right.
What you could have done. And that's a great segue into. Well, before I segue into that, before I go into that, let me digress for a moment, come back to this point I wanted to make about the forgiveness piece, because that's an ongoing process. Just like when you relive those feelings, if you think about a scenario, and you know how you can think about something that was funny or whatever, and you can just start laughing.
Right.
You can start laughing. You might be driving, and you just start laughing. Somebody's there like, what are you laughing at? Or wherever you might be. It's because you're reminiscing about, and that's how powerful the imagination is, how you can relive something like that, as poignant or as sad and as hurtful, as joyous, or a moment in time, as if it just happened, right? So forgiveness is an ongoing process. You relive, the way you can relive something that was funny and joyous, you can also relive things. You can go in your head, think, and imagination is so powerful that you can imagine and go back to that thing, and that hurt and pain come right back up. You know, I have scars, we all have scars.
Right.
And you can look, the scar's there, but the pain is gone because it's healed, even to the touch. Now, if it wasn't completely healed to the touch, I know it's not, because once anything touches that in any way, I'm going to feel it. But now these scars that are completely healed, you touch them, there's no feeling, but the memory is there. And if you continue on meditating and dwelling on that, you can be right back and relive those things. But as long, and so forgiveness, I guess I'm saying, is an ongoing process. Every time that it comes up or something reminds me of that situation, I have to forgive myself again, or that person again, you know, or persons over. Got to keep forgiving. It's an ongoing process, because although I forgive, you know, I can't forget. I don't have the capacity of forgetting, because something's going to remind me of that situation. So that is an ongoing thing, and to be able to overcome that alone on a regular basis, you know, and it just, that's good. That's quite an accomplishment, even, you know, as much as writing a book itself, coming through these things. So you're working on part 2 of The Bad Dream. Wow. So we talked about a little bit about some of the obstacles you had to overcome. I want to ask you this: would you change, looking back in hindsight, it's always 2020, looking back, what would you change? Was there anything that you would change? You know, looking back on some of, you know, the decisions you made and how you responded to things that happened to you, what would you change if you could change one thing? You could change one thing, what would that be? Or you wouldn't change anything?
That's kind of hard, It'd be a lot of things I would change, but
Okay.
If I could change one, it would definitely be. I wish I had listened more
Okay.
as far as a few things that I was told to avoid some of the roadblocks down the line.
Okay. Some of the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. So there's no regrets, because it's different from wanting to change things. Do you have any regrets?
Yeah, I have plenty of regrets.
Any regrets? Okay. Okay. All right.
Plenty.
Give me one. Give me a regret. Something that you did or said that you wish you wouldn't have done or said that you regret saying or doing. Okay, I'm gonna narrow it down for you.
Okay, yeah.
Give me something that I've said to you, right, or told you, a bit of advice or, whatever, that you didn't listen to, that you wish you would have. Is there anything that I've said to you, like, Anthony, don't do this, or think about this, anything?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and so then we can fire away. All right, there was a point in time where there was a gentleman that was incarcerated that you were seeing, okay? Were you seeing him before he got incarcerated, or you met him, y'all started talking while he was incarcerated?
Wow.
Okay, all right, because I remember that vividly and me being really pissed about that. Do you regret any part of that at all?
Yes, I do.
You did?
Yeah, I was very young. I was only 18 at the time, so I was very ignorant to, let's say, the mental
Part of a relationship? Being in a relationship?
the mental. I want to say, what is it?
Emotional ties, or
yeah, it was the I don't want to say getting over, but that word the mental advantage of dealing with somebody older, and the fact that I was 18.
Okay.
So
the advantage that they had is what you're saying. Okay. Okay.
So it was like what I was hearing from that person was different. Because they were a lot older than I was.
Okay.
So it was easier to have like a mind control.
Influence over you. Right. Okay. Because your immaturity at that time, you weren't. It's not so much that you were immature, but you weren't as mature as that person.
Right.
They had more experience, and they were okay.
So they knew what to say.
So you were playing checkers, and they were playing chess, so to speak. Okay. Okay. And so even when I was talking to you about that, you was only receiving it from where you were, and not so much as for what it actually was. Okay. Got it. Got it. But you learned the lesson, though, and you
I did learn the lesson.
Yeah. So you're all the better for it. Okay. All right.
Well, since we're already on that subject, that was actually something that I had to ask you regarding that situation.
Okay.
One of my questions was, well, how did you feel as a father knowing that your daughter had a boyfriend who was incarcerated?
I was hurt. I was hurt. It was frustrating because I knew you were so much better than that you could kind of be with whoever you wanted to a certain extent, but I felt you were, that was beneath you, not the person, but the situation, the circumstances. You could have given your attention, your time, your feelings, your emotions, everything to yourself, your future, as opposed to someone in that position at that time. And I just knew that it was wrong for you at that time. Not that that person, anything that you were better than that person or I was better than that person, but you were different. And that wasn't for you, period. And that's, I felt, you know, that's where mine was coming from. I didn't feel like that you were dumb or any of that. No, I didn't feel like any of that, you know. You feel how you feel. You're not a robot. So, and sometimes, you know, we can get our feelings, we can have feelings attracted to things that are not good for us. Right. So that's pretty much how I felt about it. Yeah, I was hurt, and I might have expressed it, you know, how I expressed it, but it was out of love, and you know, for you, I didn't want you to be hurt. Right. I didn't want you to be, you know, to get hurt. Period. That's so. Everything that I did and said came from that point. Whether it might have came, and you know, it was you received it that way. That was my motive. Right. It was love. I didn't want my daughter to be hurt. Right. Or bamboozled, hoodwinked, taken advantage of. Yes.
At the time, I didn't really understand from your point of view because, you know, as a young woman, you're wrapped up in your emotions, like you said. It was, I felt like at that point in time, I felt like you didn't really understand. Now that I'm older, I know exactly what you were trying to guard me from. Then, it wasn't all bad. I did learn a lot on the positive side as far as dealing with that person. But at the same time, you know, as far as being in a relationship and that whole situation was not good for me at that age, at 18.
Yeah. I'm glad you have to learn on your own.
Right.
Sometimes, and as a parent, and now you're a parent, we don't understand that sometimes. We don't want, you know, our child to go through certain things or whatever, but they have to. Yeah.
And so what part of the book made you feel the most uncomfortable?
Well, the parts that I have read, you know, that was part about, you know, you coming all the way to work. Well, one was you came all the way to work. Now at the stadium, you came all the way to work, and you were late, and you didn't have any money, and you called for me. You had security to call for me to get clearance, come down, and I was like, "You're late. We don't need anybody else. We're good." You know, that was uncomfortable. Like, I could have been more understanding. I didn't even call you to ask you, are you okay? You know, do you have a way home? Any of that? You hungry? I didn't, any of that. I was just career driven, focused on what I needed to do. And so that was uncomfortable for me. For me, that portion of the book, like, wow, I didn't even bother about, you know, so wrapped up in what I was doing that I didn't even take the time to see how you were with that situation. Then, you know, part about police officer, and where is that? It's in here, right?
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable for me because, you know, me, I'm very protective, and as you well know, can be overprotective. And so experiencing something like that, you know, being on a bus stop at night, trying to go to school, working, and doing all those different things, and our scheduling conflicts and things of that nature, you know, that's uncomfortable for me. You have to, you know, my daughter being vulnerable, being in that position, you know, and what could I have done differently to not have you in that position for that to happen to you? Is it something that I could have done, whatever? So those, just to name a couple of things that was.
And when you say the police officer, you're referencing the sexual assault that I experienced.
Yes.
On my way to school.
From a police officer. Yeah, that's, you know, not the fact that, and I'm not even, you know, the part of him doing what he's doing, him being wrong. It's just, I'm looking at me and like, what could I have done to avoid you having to be in that situation? Police officer, it is what it is with them, but I mean, you know, and not all of them are like that, of course.
All right, so referring back to the situation where I was late to work and you told me I had to go home. That's referring back to another question that I had, because we actually, during that time, I don't know if you remember, we weren't speaking at that time. Okay. So that kind of explains the reaction that you had towards. So the situation was, it was at one point in time in the book where there was a huge argument and I ended up leaving the house.
Okay.
I ended up packing up my stuff and I left the house. That was one of the biggest, that was the first big argument that we've had, you know, as father and daughter. And do you remember that?
I think I do. On 97 on Liberty Road.
Yeah, I was living there and I left. And I remember, I won't forget this, but I remember when I was leaving out with my things, you were sitting on the couch and you were looking at TV and you just looked very, very deep in thought. And do you remember how you felt during that time? Did you feel torn between what was going on at home and your daughter or me?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, as a parent, as you well know, now that you're a parent, I mean, I haven't been a parent that long, but you know, yeah, you never want your child to, you don't want to be at odds with your child.
Right.
You know, your maternal, paternal instincts kick in. You want to protect and make shelter, make sure that you want the best for you. You want better than what you had. You don't want them to, go through anything at all. So when it gets to that place where, you're disagreeing where it's going to happen, it tests a relationship. You know, when we agree and all that, that's not a test of the relationship. Everything's fine. We test it when we don't agree. Whether, you're pulling one way or pulling another way, whether it can bounce back without popping and severing the relationship. It's testing the strength of how we can come back together. Disagree, agree to compromise, agree to disagree. Situation, circumstance. But it's hurtful. It's very hurtful. What you want from the child, and what your child wants for themselves at the time.
So you were one of the first people I told, that knew that I lost my virginity. So how did you feel? Do you remember when that conversation came about?
I found out through a third party.
Right, I remember that.
Because
you dressed me in the car.
I asked you all the time on a regular, you still a virgin? I would ask you that.
You were asking me.
And I felt so proud. So, yes. Yeah, I was hurt. I was like, what? Nah, she would have told me that. That's not something you can tell you something. And I guess it was kind of wishful thinking for me to believe that, ignorance is bliss type of thing. My daughter, she's a virgin. If there was something going to happen, she would let me know. She would tell me. And I'm going to tell you how I kind of felt. Referring back to when something happened at school. I think you had cussed the teacher or somebody out. You said something. They said you did those things. You said those things. And I was like, not my daughter. No, so. Because I asked you anything to do, and you told me no or whatever. So that was it. You had lied to me to that I knew up to that point. So then later on, after I leaned on the teacher, the parent, and everybody, after I leaned on everybody, you told me. I was like, what? No, you didn't. So that's how I felt. I felt so, yes, I was hurt, but, could I say it was, it happened, I
had got caught stealing in the mall.
Columbia Mall, right? Yeah, right?
Yep.
You and...
my cousin.
Yeah, okay, I won't say no names. Okay, we'll change the name to protect the innocent, right? All right. Yeah, I was, again, kind of the same way, like, I can't believe, no, I can't believe that. What? She don't even have to do that. Why would she, you know? And then it was a mixed emotions. It was like that, but then I kind of thought back to myself, like, I did it.
So, I actually remember in that moment, when on the ride home back from stealing in the mall, at the house, and I was crying and wailing, and when you opened the door and you was just looking at me, you just gave me one big bear hug. You know, you didn't say nothing, you didn't have nothing to say. I just thought you was gonna start yelling and screaming, but it was such a relief when you just looked at me real deep and you just gave me a big hug. And in that moment, I felt like I just felt the release, because oftentimes we, you know, teenagers or kids, they lash out, but it's really something behind that.
Yeah, I'm just glad I was tuned to the Holy Spirit at that time and listen, because oftentimes as parents, we give you what you needed as opposed to what I think you need, as we do often as parents. We give the child what we think they need to hear, or what we think, you know, what we know from our experiences, and in all actuality, we're not sensitive to what they need at that moment at the time. So I'm just glad I was able to, at that point, you know, give you what you need.
And while we're on this topic, referring back to another question you had as far as the trailer, you were actually tuned in the night that event went down and that took place, because when we got home, it was late. I say it was around 10 at night, and we got in the house, and I went in my room and I shut the door, and I was crying, and my cousin was telling me, you know, stop crying, because you know how your father, he always come in here, you don't want him to start, you know, asking what's going on and what happened. And soon, not too long after she said that, you came in the room. You just opened the door, and you was like, and I tried to look down and act like I was fixing stuff on the dresser, and you was like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. He was like, gotta be something wrong. Why you look like you crying? And I was like, I quickly thought of something. I said, I got in an argument with a friend. With my friend, we was arguing, and we was about to fight, and he was like, and you just looked at me, and then he was like, oh, okay. And I guess you got the sense that I didn't want to talk about it, so you just went back in the room, and I had gotten a shower and so forth. But you was definitely picking up on something, you know. If it's anything that you can do to raise me differently, or would you raise me any different after looking back or knowing some of the stuff that you know now?
Yes, I would do a few things differently. I would try to be a little bit more sensitive to what you need, as opposed to what I know. You know, as parents, you know, everything I do as a parent is motivated out of love. Sometimes, though, it is out of anger and frustration, and those are the times that I would like to do a little different, because in that time I'm really meeting my own needs, you know, as opposed to loving you and meeting your need as a child, you know. And those are some of the things that I would change. Like, for example, you know, the job situation, and then you wear so many different hats, you know, as being your father, and then being your boss too, your manager at work, you know, but you were off the clock, you weren't on the clock, and I did not fulfill that role. I was still operating under that manager role, like, nah, you late, it's whatever, no, you know. And so certain times, you know, I'm fulfilling the role as a parent, but it's meeting my needs and my feelings, you know, as opposed to the child's feelings, you know. Yeah, making sure that you're having what you need to be able to spend more time with you as a man, and as a father, so that you could pick and choose a man from that vein, from that aspect. You know what I'm saying? You know, spent more time like going out to dinner, taking you out to a movie, or just spending more time with you on that level, so that and preparing you, preparing you, treating you like a young man is supposed to treat you. You know, as opposed to just being a father and telling you, giving you all these instructions, and live those out, you know, before you. You know what I mean? And spend more time. Those are a couple things, to say the least, that I would change.
All right, well, that's all the questions that I had for you, and I appreciate you, Daddy, for coming
and I love you, sweetheart.
And talking about the book and accepting this interview.
I love the opportunity. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.